Welcome back to Florida Man Garage. In this episode, we are going to go through a couple things on this that we kind of left out of some of the other videos. Draining the radiator, putting in new fluid in that. We replaced the fuel injectors. We paint the wheels. We paint the grill. We give it a nice wash. I didn't record it, but I also changed out the fuel accumulator in the back and also the fuel filter. That was the issue of why it wasn't starting so quickly, because a lot of that fuel pressure is leaking back out. After I changed that fuel accumulator in the back, that fixed that problem. And I know what you're thinking, I got it in this little tent here, but hopefully I'm going to be selling one of my other cars soon, and then we can put this back in the garage, because I just washed it and there's already cat prints going up the hood of it, which is very annoying. Hopefully we can get out of this little makeshift garage soon and put it back into the garage. Also, we show you some beauty shots of the car. Took a lot of nice videos and pictures of it. And then at the end of this episode, we just have a nice montage of just driving the car and just enjoying it for what it is. So we'll get right into the video, and thanks for watching. So we've been driving the car around for about a month now, and it has some problems where it doesn't start very well on cold start and also stumbles on idle a bit. When it finally does start, it kind of blows smoke out the back, but it's not oil, I think it's just fuel. We got all new fuel injectors, seals, and then also these air distribution tubes. They've never been changed on the car, so they're very old also. We're going to replace that. This is a cold start valve that may be leaking, and we have another air distribution hose here, and this is a fuel filter that goes onto the fuel distributor itself. So we're going to replace all this stuff, and it might not solve the problem, and that's fine, because all this stuff does need to be replaced anyway. Once I do all of this, and if the problem's still not fixed, then I will go the more analytical route and start testing fuel pressure and see if it's a fuel dampener that's bad, if it's a fuel accumulator, warm-up regulator. We need to replace all this stuff anyway, so that's what we're going to do. So these fuel injectors were really hard to get in. Took me a lot longer than I thought, because everything was so tight and there were some bolts stripped out by somebody else, so I had to deal with that. It just took a really long time, so I figure I would just put this on fast forward here and just kind of show you the overall process that I went through that day. Turned out that the fuel injectors really didn't change much of anything. Maybe it helped with some of the smoke on startup. What it really came down to was the fuel accumulator in the back, and also a fuel line in the rear was leaking as well. So that's kind of what caused it to not want to start on cold starts. This was filmed a really long time ago, before all the other footage in this video. So since then, it drives great, but just like those other problems we've been saying, it still kind of stumbles on idle. So really that didn't really get fixed by the fuel injectors. I think it might be more of a problem with just running too rich. Not really quite sure, but it runs pretty good overall for the time being. Alright, I did get all 8 new injectors in there with new seals, new housings. Can't really see them now. Got the new air distribution tubes on. Also, that vacuum filter was broken, so I swapped that out. That new gas filter there, new cold start injector there. So I'm going to see how it starts now. I imagine it's gonna crank for a little bit because there's really no fuel pressure right now. Here's where I spot a fuel leak. We do have a fuel leak right there. Okay, it was a little loose. Today we are going to try and paint up these wheels using these products here, and hopefully we can turn this to this. Here's the products we're using. Rust-Oleum primer, duplicolor wheel coating. Hopefully it gives us a nice, even, and silver color. I'm gonna go ahead and jack it up and get these lug nuts out. Alright, I'm just going to start by washing these up, clean them up real good, and then we'll get to painting. Now I'm just going to dry it off real good. So here's what we got before painting. So you can see it's definitely a little bit chipped. I'm not going to be sanding this down to perfection or anything like that. I'm just going to put the primer over this, and then we will spray it with the color. And I'm thinking it should come out decent, but you'll definitely still see some of this stuff through the paint. But that's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and use these index cards and go all the way around. Starting off with this primer here from Rust-Oleum. There we are after one coat of primer. Figured I'd go ahead and at least try to get color onto these old lug nuts. Probably flake off, but worth a shot. Alright, gonna hit the lug nuts with some color. I had to move this operation into this tent because the wind was blowing the cards off of the tire. It's very hard to see where I painted and where I have not painted. Time to mount this one back up. Hopefully we don't scratch up the new lug nuts too much. Here's a first glance here. Came out pretty good, I think. Couple things is, I think it would probably benefit from a clear coat, so I might do that at some point. And then the other thing is, I think the lugs would look better chrome. Eventually maybe buy some chrome lug nuts. But other than that, for the time it took and for the cost of the spray paint, I think it really helped a lot. The card trick worked pretty good. I mean, I have a little bit here, but it kind of just wipes off. Alright, I know you can't see me, but let's see how this Mercedes starts up after sitting for a long time. By long, I mean maybe a month. Alright, here we go. Started pretty good. I am finally getting back around to painting the other two wheels on the Mercedes. It's been probably a month since I did the other two. The second can of paint I got were the wrong color, so I had to return that and start by breaking all these free. Maybe I'll pressure wash these while they're on the car. I think it may be easier just to clean them on the car here. Why would anyone ever put wheel weights on the outside of a wheel? Don't get that. It just looks horrible. Alright, I'm going to pull this wheel off real quick. Stuff's still looking pretty good under here. I'm going to put these in the ultrasonic bath and see if it does anything at all. Just going to blow dry this wheel real quick. I really don't like painting. It just takes so long and it's just so tedious, but really need to get this done. So I'm going to do the trick with the cards again, primer it, paint it, move on to something else. This trick works pretty good. It would probably work better with thicker cards. These are really cheap index cards. They kind of flop around a little bit, especially if there's any breeze like there is now. So I'm trying to do this under this little canopy that we got, but It really doesn't take a long time at all. People do this with playing cards too, but I mean, the smaller the card, obviously the more you're going to need, but those are thicker. So I would think these 3x5 index cards, a thicker version, would probably be the best bet. Kind of seems like it takes a long time, but it really doesn't. This is probably, I don't know, about a minute maybe. Maybe put some extra ones in a couple of these places. Just gonna primer it, wait for it to dry, probably get the other wheel cleaned up in the meantime. Oh, it's just so windy. I'm no expert with spray paint, but I get a pretty good outcome sometimes, and it's best to just try to do the light coats and try to get all the different angles. Get every angle you can from one spot, then move, get every angle again. You know, I didn't sand these, I didn't do any of that stuff, so obviously the prep work is a big portion of it, so we skimped out on the prep work by doing none of it, so see how this comes out. All right, we'll let that dry, we'll do another coat, pull off the other wheel in the meantime. Zip this one off real quick. Just gonna let that sit in the sun for a second. All right, I got the second wheel carded up. Spray the primer on this one, and I'll probably do a second coat on the first wheel. I think that's pretty good. I'll do a second coat on the other wheel. All right, second coat of primer on wheel number 2. First coat of color on this first wheel. Some of these cards are coming out. Gonna put these here. All right, primer over here. Okay, I think that's good. I'm definitely gonna get my respirator. Here's what those lug nuts look like after the ultrasonic bath. They're definitely cleaned up, but I still want to paint them. So I'm gonna primer these and give them the same treatment as the other ones. Okay, we're gonna do the second coat of finish on the first wheel and the first coat of finish on the second wheel, and primer these lug nuts. Some of our cards fell over here. Hope it was dry. I think it was dry. First coat, second coat. Oh, let's do this. Oh, keep doing that. It's good enough. Second coat primer, lug nuts. All right, done with the primer. Second coat, color. First coat, clear. Lug nuts would be first coat of color. I'm just gonna come back in 10 minutes and do clear coat on both wheels. So this is definitely one of the downsides to the card trick. Oh, this one was coming out so good. Hate painting. Just clear coat this and be done with it. Move on with our lives. Okay. Supposed to do 2 light coats, 1 medium coat, 10 minutes in between. One light coat. So when I did these, I didn't have clear coat, but I'm not taking this off again. So I saw this trick where if you put tire shine on the tires, then the paint won't stick to it. So since it's clear anyway, I figure I'd give it a shot. I'm just gonna wipe tire shine on the tire. I'm gonna spray this with clear. I'm gonna wipe off the tire shine, and hopefully that works. If not, hey, we gave it a shot, right? A bunch of dirt on the wheel anyway, so that should probably help. I'm not taking the wheel back off, doing the whole card trick again. It's just too much. Do the same thing back here. Good enough.
Second light coat of clear. No, 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 no. Stop. Stop. One more coat of color on these. Oh! Dude, fucking piece of shit. Last coat of gloss. Running out of time and patience.
All right, let's pull off all these cards. I think we're finally done painting. Just gonna let them dry here for about 10 minutes, then put them in the sun for about an hour, then put them back on the car, and we'll show you the final process at that point. Here's the finished product. I feel like this one came out pretty good. Just gonna put this rear wheel back on very carefully. Everything here still looks pretty good. Trying to not scratch these up so much. Pretty happy with how this one came out. A couple marks from where the cards fell. Get this front wheel put back on. This one's okay, not as good as the other wheel, but this one had a bunch of marks and damage to it before. Considering we didn't do any prep at all, it's looking a lot better than it was. Would probably look better with some chrome lug nuts. Don't really want to spend the money on that at the moment, so these will do just fine for now. Put this valve stem cover back on. Just gotta lower it down, torque everything, and it's done. Okay, I guess I didn't hit record, but all I did was torque all the lug nuts. And I was saying that maybe the next thing we do is get some chrome lug nuts for this. I think it'll make it look a lot nicer, and those are kind of getting scratched up from just torquing them the one time. I think it came out really good. We're gonna get this thing detailed too soon, so I'll do some proper after pictures once that's done. Today, I would like to take off this grille and paint this faded black piece, get this nice black again. I think that will kind of transform the front end of this car a little bit. Should be a pretty easy process. Take off the grille, take this piece off, paint it, put it back together. Let's get started. There's just like 4 screws holding this on, I think. All right, got that off. We'll bring it back to the garage to take it apart the rest of the way, paint it, and bring it back. All right, I'm just gonna take this grill off of its bracket here. I think the hardest part of this whole thing is gonna be taping off this star. It's definitely the hardest and most annoying part, most time-consuming part. All right, I think that's about as good as we're gonna get it. That should be good enough. Just gonna clean everything up real quick with some alcohol, and then we will spray it with adhesion promoter and then semi-gloss black paint, and hopefully it comes out looking pretty good. I'm going to use this adhesion promoter first, and then I'm going to go over it with this semi-gloss black. We'll see how this comes out. All right, I'm going to spray them with this adhesion promoter. If you don't know what this is, it just basically helps spray paint stick to plastic better, and I used it a lot on this project, so seems to work out pretty good. Basically like clear. Out of paint. Luckily that was just the adhesion promoter. All right, going over this with the semi-gloss. I got plenty of this paint, so I'm just going to do probably a couple light coats. Trying to get it from all angles, that way we don't miss anything. Not really going for full coverage on this first pass, just kind of getting something down. Let this dry for about 10 minutes, come back, do another coat. I really don't like how this paint's coming out. I used this paint before. Maybe that last of that adhesion promoter is bad or something, but it just doesn't look good. Last time I did this, I used just some rust paint for metal. Came out better than this, so I might try to use that instead on the second coat. This is what I used last time, which is for rust, to go over rust. But it came out pretty good, so maybe we can salvage this with this. I'm just gonna let that dry and see what it comes out looking like, because you don't really see this part anyway, so hopefully that comes out looking all right, and then we can do the rest like that. All right, I think I'm gonna go with this rust reformer. It's not as shiny as the other one, and it's just giving it a little bit better of a outcome. Just gonna do a couple coats of this instead, see how this comes out. And this stuff dries really fast. All right, this is the moment all three of you have been waiting for. See how this comes out. It's just so funny how long it takes to tape something and then how quickly it all comes off. There's that. You can still see some drips or something. I don't really know. I think the adhesion promoter wasn't getting a good spray on that, and I don't know if it was that or that paint that I used, but should have just stuck with the rust paint that I used the first time. That came out a lot better, but I think this will still look decent. So I'm just gonna put it back together now. Gonna tighten them all down by hand so I don't strip anything out. All right, just gotta put these back on. All right, it's all back together. Let's get this back on the car and see how it really looks. All right, just gonna pull this up onto the concrete. It's been starting pretty good lately. Starts up real nice. All right, I'm just gonna pop off the bottom radiator hose and just let it all drain out. Just water, so not really worried about where it goes. Ow. Okay, I guess I don't have any distilled water, which I thought I had, so I'm gonna have to go buy some of that real quick, come back, refill it up, and we should be good to go. Back with the distilled water, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put that hose back on the bottom and then fill it up and be done with that part, and then we'll just give it a nice little wash. All right. Gonna start it up. Well, there ain't much to see here. I'm just gonna bleed out the system and then should be good to go from there. All right, we're gonna give it a nice little hand wash here. So this might be one of the last episodes on this car for a while. We got some other projects coming up, and this one is definitely not done, but it's closer to being done than the other projects. I just want to thank everybody for watching this. I really appreciate it, and there will definitely be more episodes of this car in the future. But for now, it's pretty good. I mean, we still have some problems. I guess the next thing I would do would be maybe replace that steering box. The steering on it's a little bit loose, but honestly, even before that, I'll probably change out these bumpers. If I do another episode coming up soon, it'll probably be swapping out these bumpers for the European ones. I think that'll make this car look a lot better. Other than that, the other problems are the AC and the heat don't work. Gotta do the rear shocks. It needs a little bit of paint work on the back, in the back trunk lid where it used to have a third brake light. Would really like to shave that clean, get that repainted. It has some dents on the trunk lid also. So it's just one of those cars where it's always gonna be something to do, but I'm glad it's at the point where we can drive it, we can enjoy it a little bit, but it's not gonna be perfect, but it's not gonna be something that sits in the garage forever and never gets driven, since it's always in a perpetual stage of restoration. I guess you could consider it a rolling restoration at this point. I know the original plan was to paint this silver, but I think this color is kind of growing on the both of us. It's actually a really nice color, especially when the sun hits it. Also, it doesn't run perfect. It runs pretty good, but the two main issues with it running is that when it's cold, it runs amazing. When it heats up, which is 99% of the time that you're driving it, it runs fine, but when it idles, it stumbles, like the RPMs drop a little bit every now and then. It never really stalls, but acts like it's gonna stall for a second, then comes back on. It's almost like the idle's too low, because it idles around like 500. If I can maybe get that idle up a little bit. I think it's running a little bit rich, because when I give it some gas here, it's kind of shot out some black soot. Might be running a little bit rich. And the last thing is, it kind of feels like it doesn't have any power because it shifts into the next gear so fast. Like, I don't think this thing ever gets above like 2000 RPM because it just shifts into the next gear. So I think there might be like a TV cable or something like that. I might have to adjust to get different kind of shifting going on with it. I think the wheels came out really good for our spray paint. Not perfect, just like everything else. Fits the motto of this car. Gotta get these big bumpers off this. It'll look so much nicer. Gonna dry it up real quick. And now we can take down the top. You got it?
going to get sushi. Woo!
So what do you think about the car?
What do I think about the car? I think it's the best, most thoughtful gift that my husband could have ever given me. He worked so hard, day and night, hot and cold, so blessed. Such a beautiful sunny day. Take it out for a nice, almost in spin, I mean. A beautiful steering wheel. But really, what I think of this car is that it's been my dream car for so many years. And I really am thankful and blessed that Dano did this for me. I love her. She's such a good girl.
Has a little bit of
Wiggle.
free play in it, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I think I drive it beautifully. You might disagree, but a little bit swerving. It rides so smooth, and I just love the horn.
Did not work?
Love the horn. Take two.